We were discussing the U23s losing to Japan, schedule compression, everything between now and Leagues Cup, teams being challenged, teams playing in an international window Saturday. 8 teams did that this past week. Where, sir, would you like to start?
I had a rare Saturday off, so I didn't see those matches. I was coming back from Annapolis, a family wedding. Did not get to see the Blues. They did play, though, but considering the fact I went down for a family wedding, of which my daughter was a flower girl, which was also Saturday night, I think I made the better choice of missing the Annapolis Blues match. But beautiful city, beautiful town. Not so beautiful the traffic coming back or going down from New York City, but it was a fun time had by all. So
well, and I mean the idea of what Michael Hitchcock has done with Annapolis and the Blues. You're getting 11,000 folks at the stadium there for NPSL games. So obviously, what he's doing is doing really well. But let me ask you this: the idea of the option of having MLS teams. Yeah, you can play in an international window, or you don't. What about that as just a general construct? What's your thought on that?
I mean, look, I'd I would much prefer, kind of what we see elsewhere, right? Where if there's an international break, it is an international break, right? But I also get, MLS is different in a lot of ways, right? So, unfortunately, you've got to, it doesn't stop. I mean, other than obviously Leagues Cup, the league largely doesn't stop, and also you'd be dealing with, potentially a logjam of games, playing deeper into December. Like, there's a lot of other issues I think that come with it. I don't think MLS. I don't think a league in North America, let's say that, is really able to take every international break off, play 34 games, play multiple competitions, and still end in a reasonable time frame, right? So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of different issues here that you don't get in Europe.
You ain't kidding, brother. Jarrett, your first thoughts for Dylan Butler on a Wall Pass Wednesday?
Yeah, I guess we got two of the actions that we kind of suspected with the international window, with coaching changes here in Atlanta and in Dallas the other day, which was, I don't know, man, it felt kind of weird. Just like I figured if Dallas was going to make the move, they'd have made it earlier in the international window, but then they didn't. I guess your thoughts on both of those?
Yeah, so I was actually on my return to work was Sunday. I did the Canada match, stuck on in case Messi did Messi things, right? So I was watching a little Argentina, Ecuador, right? And then email box like, okay, here we go. A lot of work still left to be done here. Can't say you're surprised at the move. I am a little. I don't know if surprised is the right word, but like, for lack of a better word, I am a little bit surprised that Dan Hunt is so bullish on his roster, right? Like saying, we're way better than, like, there are also injuries. Like, I don't think Nico Estevez went around that locker room like with a hammer and just started like hitting knees, and I mean, that's not his fault that guys are injured. I think maybe his lack of, or his inability to be as fluid maybe with the players that he has and formations and stuff, perhaps resulted in his departure. But I don't, like, I mean, look, this is a team that's had injuries, have been injured, and also key guys have underperformed tremendously, right, this year. So it is interesting. Again, it's when you hear these press conferences like they had yesterday, the Hunt saying, and I think it was Hunt saying it, that they need to dig back into the academy and the youth setup better than had happened under Estevez. Bit surprising there as well. But yeah, look, I don't think I didn't have, I think, Dallas near the top of the West, even when they were fully healthy this year. So
yeah,
not surprised. And apparently it's another good guy gone, right? So again, the lesson is learned: do not be a good guy in managing soccer teams. So
yeah, you can say the same thing about Gonzalo Pineda here in Atlanta. It's now Rob Valentino who's taken over.
Yeah.
We look at San Jose, and I know that we've got the black helicopters out, and we kind of had the black helicopters out yesterday with Luchi Gonzalez and Jarrett San Jose Earthquakes, where maybe if the baseball team that John Fisher owns is going to be playing in Sacramento, he gets to keep an eye on Mark Briggs with Sacramento Republic, and he could bring him in to be the new head coach for San Jose. And does Peter Vermes have the Judge Smales conversation with himself, or the Spider-Man pointing in the mirror conversation, with what happened with Seattle? I mean, you still have questions in the league as to, who could be next on the list. Did Peter Vermes jump Luchi Gonzalez just because of economics?
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but it's very interesting, right? With Vermes, one of the few guys left to hold the two titles. Would he, like you said, would it be like it's like after training, hey Peter, I need to see you in the office here, and
yeah,
he closes the door and then he walks out and walks back in his office just as a sporting director, not as a head coach. I don't know.
Comes back in the back door, sits behind the desk like Joe Smales having the conversation with Danny Noonan and Caddyshack.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He's got his back turned to him. Peter.
Look, it's not good enough, right? And for him, I think it was not this past week, but the previous week, to go through. I think when they won, right? To go through this, like, we haven't had good calls in games for the past 10 games. Like, I don't think it's, for half of this season, it's officiating. Like, you can maybe point to a situation here or there in one game or two, or, and listen, obviously refereeing calls to change games, right? But so does bad teams, so do bad players. So
there you go, logic again.
Yeah, I think there, and there's more of them than there are referees in the field. So, I feel like Sporting would have made a major change if not for that crazy run last year. But so the question was then, which Sporting was, what's the real Sporting, right? Yes. And I think we're learning it was that team that started this season, 10 games without a win last year, that is the actual Sporting that we're seeing. So,
Jarrett, Dylan opened a couple of doors. Which one do you want to walk through?
I mean, yeah, because you already touched on it, is that, which is the real Sporting, and, how does Sporting fix this with Peter Vermes, not just as the coach, but in charge of everything? There's not really, somebody above him to say, Peter, it's time. It's kind of, Peter, you need to tell Peter that it's time. Like, yeah. How do you fix this without blowing everything up?
And he doesn't strike me as, and I've had conversations with him. I like Peter Vermes. I love his antics on the sideline, very meme worthy, right?
Yes.
But I don't know if he's, I don't know, again, what the right word is, maybe humble enough to accept, hey, mea culpa, we need to change. Like, I feel like that ego is maybe a little bit too big, and it's hurting this team, right? This club.
You mentioned Peter complaining about calls. And so I'll go ahead and I'll start walking through this door. When it comes to VAR, and we were fortunate enough to actually have a bit of a back and forth with our friends at Pro over what was and was not included in inside the VAR studio from this past week, involving goal, not a goal, goes to VAR, re-refereed, all these kinds of things. And you end up with an error that apparently was clear and obvious, that I don't know how it was. When it comes to the state of officiating right now in Major League Soccer, and I know this is a 30,000-foot question, how would you view what we are seeing right now when it comes to officiating in Major League Soccer, comma, VAR and its place in it, comma, and where VAR needs to keep its nose out of things, period?
That's a tough one.
Like I said, it's a 30,000-foot question. So, I mean,
yeah.
and the reason I ask is because of the event that happened in the Atlanta match, for the second match in a row. In the LAFC match, where we got into the discussion about Mateus Bogusz getting a short-term header and the ball rockets away, and center ref Sergi Boyko sits there and he's called the VAR. VAR thinks that it's a dog so red. Brad gets a red. Tanner changes against LAFC. Next match, then it's Charlotte, and it is goal, not a goal. Looks like Josh Cohen is there behind the goal. You can't really tell if the entire soccer ball goes over the goal line or not. Then it goes to VAR. VAR says, yes, it was a goal, and it had to have been a clear and obvious error. And I'd love to know if they had an angle that we didn't, but they don't. And apparently, according to VAR, you have Pro rebuking the VAR in this case. And right now, this is where we are at times, I think, with Pro and VAR, where they're focused on re-refereeing at times instead of just looking for clear and obvious errors, and they want to re-referee things now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I still think here in North America, I think VAR is utilized better than it is anywhere else.
You ain't kidding, because England is having a bunch of furors, man.
Yeah. But that said, there's still it's still, I mean, not infancy, right? But it's still in its
nascent stages.
Yeah, right. Like, there's still a lot to learn from it, and that's what you just mentioned. That's a big part of it. And it's hard to not re-referee it, like, because you have the ability to look at a video monitor, right, and see it all there. So, and it's funny because that's and you and I are big hockey fans, right? We're big Stanley Cup playoff fans.
Absolutely.
That's what they're doing in the NHL, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're seeing it, and they have a mechanism in the NHL for those who are unaware. Like, you can call something a major, and that allows you to review it. So say, like, I think it was the other night, Leon Draisaitl just sort of like
the Barkov hit,
threw himself into Barkov, right? Launched himself into Barkov's face.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe the initial call was a major, which allowed them to review it. If they didn't call it a major, they can't review it, right? So it's kind of like almost saying an MLS official would be like, all right, well, that's a red, but that means that we can now look at it.
Yeah.
And they decided, no, it was not a major, it was a minor. I don't know if that's a better situation, right? Like, because you're just going to have people freaking out at every, like a trip, all of a sudden you're like, that's a red, hang on, now we can review it. Because you can't review yellow cards, right? Or just regular fouls. So, it's still a very still a very new process. And I think, more education needs to continue through it for these officials. But again, this is the best version of this technology that we see around the world.
Yeah. Jarrett, go for it with Dylan.
I actually want to ask you about one of the teams up near you, because for a while we thought Nick Cushing would be one of those guys on the hot seat.
Yes.
And one of the first ones to go this season. That ain't the case, man. What's gotten into NYC to be kind of turning things around, of at least stabilizing things, man?
So I will use this analogy, right? So I went down to Annapolis and I got some I at some point in this journey, I need to get a crab cake, right? Like I got some recommendation on where to go. I had it. It was awesome. I love the flavors. I didn't know what was in there. Like, I didn't know what the special sauce was there, right? But I'm sure there was something different to make each of these, establishments down there who everyone's serving crab cake, right? Like, you want yours to be a little bit different. To this point, there is actually no special sauce here to what NYCFC is doing. It's literally just sort of, I guess, to use a food analogy, just letting it marinate a little bit, right?
So it's a Sabrett's on the sidewalk.
Yeah, dirty water dog. Yes.
Okay.
It's just letting it marinate and like letting the youngest team in MLS play together, right? And get some time. And I would love to credit Maxi Morales' return as that key Zen moment, but it wasn't, right? Because that came at the end of a blowout against San Jose, where they were already winning significantly before that. So, it's boring to say it, right? Like, I'd love to say, I mean, it was a little bit of a tactical tweak, but for the most part, it's just let the kids play, right? Let them make mistakes, let them get on the field together, and they'll work things out. So I think honestly, that's what's been the driving force behind their turnaround.
MLS Soccer's Dylan Butler joining us for Wednesdays with Dylan here in the midweek, where we talk about pretty much anything and everything. Okay, so now that we're all hungry, where's the best sidewalk dog near your house?
I don't, not like, I'm in the burbs, so I don't have them by my house. Although, like, I do, when I go into the city, that's certainly something like that. And I'll either go that, or I'll go like hot pretzel, like the hot sidewalk pretzel, throw some mustard on there. That's good eats right there.
Okay, so do you scrape the salt off, or do you just keep the salt on?
No, well, it depends, right? Like, I do like salt on my pretzel, but like some of these are like dangerous levels of salt. So.
Yeah, OD'd, man.
There's a limit, man.
And I think sometimes they put so much salt on it that, like, even just walking around with it, like, it just falls off anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally for me, if I see that there's a lot of salt on it before I put the mustard on or dip it, I literally will just sit there and I'll brush the salt off, and it'll end up, going on the sidewalk, and the pigeons will sit there and go, look, oh, food, and then they'll be eating all the salt pellets.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want somewhere between, I need to have some salt on it to not just covered in, all you see is white. So somewhere in between that, I think is my preference, but a nice golden brown mustard for me for both of those. A little sauerkraut as well for the dog.
I'm not a sauerkraut guy. I mean, legitimately, I can drown it in mustard. Just like if the dog is if the dog is worth it, I can just go with basic condiments and enjoy the dog for being the dog. I don't need to have extra dressing and all this kind of stuff on it. And this is why Jarrett disowns me in segments like this.
Yeah.
Well, really? Only sometimes. We'll talk about this later about your opinions on Reubens. Then, on a good Reuben.
Oh, I love Reubens. Give me a good Reuben. You can drown. You can drown the Reuben in the Thousand Island. I'm good.
By the way, shout out to Chicken Ruth's. That's where I went for my crab cake.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
Yes. Yeah, Alex, least surprising revelation of the day involving me and the hot dogs. and kraut. Yeah, yeah. John is not a sauerkraut guy. Color me shocked. Exactly.
But I will say, like, I don't go, like, I'll get the sauerkraut on a New York City sidewalk, right? But like, I don't go through the whole process at home. Like, I then switch that to relish.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm more the relish mustard guy at home.
Okay. You're not going to a Wawa and grabbing sauerkraut and taking it home. It's on the
No.
on the sidewalk. It's acceptable, but going into the store to grab the sauerkraut to take it home.
I'm not going to go through the whole effort of whatever it is. It's probably just heating it up, but
yes. Yeah, no relish. We got folks that are no relish folks. All right, so then let me ask you this: since we're now officially at, if you want to call it the halfway point of the season, we'll call it the halfway point of the season. Who and you have to, if you're going to put a team in, you're going to have to take a team out. You can't just sit there and have like 11 teams making the playoffs. In the East and the West, is there anybody on the outside looking in that you think will make it, and anyone who's on the inside that will be bumped out by the time we're done? And this is going in the time capsule.
Yeah, let me look. I'm going to pop up my standings right now. In the East, I will say Atlanta gets in.
Okay.
And I think Nashville is out.
Okay.
I almost want to make a case for Montreal, but that would mean then Philly would be out. I think the top 7 as it is right now, I think they get through.
Okay.
So I think it's a battle for 2 spots there, but I'd be hard pressed to think you don't see Philly in the postseason.
And Carranza looks like he's heading to Feyenoord.
Yeah, no. I think we said it too. You know, you can tell when they re-upped him, or I'm sorry, when they said there was a year left on his deal, they were not going to re-up him. Like, you knew that he'd be sold. So, in the West.
Zombie Sounders, did they make a run? All caps, did they make a run?
Again, yeah, like, it's another team that it's hard for me to not see them in the postseason. But at whose expense, right? Maybe at Portland's expense then. I'd like to see Colorado in the postseason. They've got to figure out their defending / goalkeeping. But I don't see, like, the bottom 3, San Jose, Dallas, KC, I don't see them making a run. And St. Louis, it's hard when you only get 1 point per game to make that push up that you need. So even, like, they just draw like every match they play. So I would say, for the time capsule, I would say, again, it's boring because it's just flipping spots, but I would say Seattle for Portland.
Okay. Cascadia rivalry. Jarrett with Dylan for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about Colorado because you mentioned them. Just your overall thoughts on this first year, because it feels like they haven't had a plan for so long, and now they seem to have a plan. Even if it doesn't work all this year, just your thoughts on their first year under the Chris Armas experiment trademark.
Yeah, I would say, look, I would applaud them for spending money, first and foremost.
Is it one of these? Is it one of these applauds?
No.
About blanking time, Kroenke family?
No. They decided, like, what they were doing wasn't good enough. Let's splash some cash, and they did a lot of that in the summer. I loved bringing Georgie back. I think that was a great move. I think he's been very good. You bring in an Omir Fernandez. Cole Bassett, like, solid moves across the board. I think the thing that's holding them back, it's that I can't say a lot of us probably saw this, but, like, what happened to Zach Steffen, right? Like, this was a guy, it feels like not too long ago who was like the number one choice for the U.S. national team, right? Goalkeeper. And suddenly he's just lost it. Like, it's funny. Matt Doyle wrote in his Sunday 2,000 plus word, whatever it is at this point. I have to edit that at point, so it does take some time. But said he wondered if England broke Zach Steffen, right?
And did Middlesbrough break Zach Steffen?
Yeah, which then would beg the question: would the same then happen to poor Aiden Morris? Because it would appear that he's heading that way as well.
Garrett, will Middlesbrough break another player?
The thing with goalkeepers is always reps, man. Like if you're not, I think it's the same concern we had with Turner leaving New England. Is like, are you going to be getting reps over there? Because I need you getting reps. Like your mileage may vary on doing the Gio Reyna thing of he's not playing because God only knows why his agent and parents send him to where they send him. Your mileage may vary trying that whole don't worry about playing at the on the club model, just play on the national team model. This goalkeeper seems like it's more of that you need to get reps, man. And yeah, I don't know, maybe they broke him. Like Zach Steffen wasn't always great with his feet, but he was a brick wall, and now he's just neither of those things.
His feet are bricks and he's not a brick wall.
Yes.
That's just, man. And Aiden Morris leaving for $4 million, heading back to Crew. Crew is having an egress in their front office, man.
Yeah.
Bezbachenko's now the new head of Black Knight Holdings, which gives him the keys to Bournemouth et al. And now the number 2 left as well. And so now Issa Tall is the GM for Columbus, and Aiden Morris is out the door, and I think that Aiden might be in for a bit of a rude awakening with some of his soccer on-the-field patterns heading into the EFL Championship and the physical nature there, where I don't know if it's a knife fight in a phone booth, but it's pretty close, and I don't know if some of what Aiden Morris does in Major League Soccer will fly in the EFL Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, time will tell. I'm sure we all hope that he succeeds.
Absolutely.
It's good for MLS. It's good for the national team as well. It's difficult, right? Because it feels like guys are thinking ahead at the 2026 World Cup and where they can get a spot. And, this feeling that they've got to play in Europe to get a better look. So you're just kind of trying to find spots, right? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to Europe? So I do hope that Burrow does not break Aiden Morris.
Does Newcastle make any moves to help get under PSR by the end of the month?
Probably. Unfortunately, that's a whole nother. We don't have another half hour to.
Miguel Almiron's immediate future.
Yeah, unfortunately, my Miggy Newcastle jersey will be retired for good now. So
that sounds like it might be the Saudi League, might be some other places that might be interested in Miggy and or Alexander Isak, so they can get under profit and sustainability rules, because they were 2/3 of the way there after one season, and they got some work to do in trying to get under the bar so they don't get a points deduction. What else is going on with you at MLSsoccer.com? What's on duty this week?
We got Friday night, Columbus NYCFC, the Sands derby, as it is, right?
Yeah.
Will and James battling it out under the lights Friday night. And then the full slate of Saturday, right? Let's get back after it. So
what's the match that you're looking most forward to on the weekend?
That's a good question. Let me take a quick look. I don't think it's a great slate of games.
It's an slate. It's.
I mean, maybe Friday night might be the best of them all. To be honest, like NYCFC Columbus might be the best of them all. Benteke out, right, for DC, so takes a little bit of the shine off that Charlotte DC match. Although that's probably destined for 0-0 or 1-0.
Take the under.
Yeah. Looking through Philly, Miami, some of that shine is off as well, obviously.
Take the under.
Yeah, not spectacular. Maybe a little Seattle, Minnesota, I guess, right? Yeah, I don't know.
See, so it might be Friday night. It's the most exciting one.
Yes, I think it is.
Of the whole run.
You hate to debut with your best game, but I think that's where we're at.
Okay, and I think this one's at Yankee Stadium.
Yes,
I think it is this time. Yankees might be out of town, so they'll be at Yankee Stadium. MLSsoccer.com. Dylan, as always, it's great to have you on when you can come in as the busiest man in the Northeast and drop by on your Wednesdays. What's the mug and what's in the mug?
Dad and coffee.
There we go. Okay, so Dad and coffee with the daily required allowance of Dad and what it takes. As always, my friend, it's great to see you, and we will catch up with you hopefully again next week, and we'll continue to have fun through the international window and schedule compression and everything that fits in. Be safe, my friend.
All right, boys.